Well, we're joined now by Mark, Kenna and David Creed, founders of Bad Blood Films. And David is the director of Sacrilege, which is the new psychological horror film out in cinemas now, March 6th. Thank you so much for joining us both.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Like I said, Joe and I got to see the film Friday night at Cineworld in Cardiff. Really exciting. One thing that I kind of took away from it was the fact that this is quite a low budget, gritty British horror film. And that's really refreshing to see in cinemas. So if people who haven't seen the film, who haven't had a chance yet to go to the cinemas and check it out, can you tell us a bit about the storyline of the film, David, and how this came to be?
So it's about four lifelong friends who decide that they haven't been away and had a party together for many years. So tonight is the time that they're going to go away for a weekend and have a good time. They pick up a hitchhiker on the way who tells them of this rather cool pagan folk festival that they need to go to, where they do, and they're part of a ritual that is performed by the rather evil Father Saxon, and then from there all sorts of horrible things start to make their weekend go bad.
Yes, it goes very, very bad, doesn't it? So Mark, I want to come to you now as well. So obviously Bad Blood Films is a kind of a brand new company for you. You've had lots of experience in the industry, 22 years of experience. So how did Bad Blood Films come to be? And obviously the Sacrilege is your first film as part of this company. So tell us a bit about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, as I say, my background is with Dolby. So I used to be a film consultant working over in Scandinavia, mainly in post-production, helping those guys, with sound, mainly the Dolby soundtrack and the Dolby 5.1 and 7.1 mix. And then also the up-and-coming territories like Greece, Egypt and Turkey, hand-holding those guys from mono, stereo to 5.1 mixing. So that's my background. And we went and started a post-production studio in 2009 and met quite a few independent local filmmakers, from Bristol, Rob Holder being one of those guys, and then Dave, being another guy, who at the time he was running, a Bristol filmmakers group. And I met one of his producers down there on a film he was working on, Special Delivery, which obviously is Dave's short film. And off the back of that, Dave said, look, I've got a few feature films, feature film ideas, and one of them was Facility 31. So we started to kind of build a company around that and develop a lot more of Dave's ideas. After many years of, developing a company, learning the industry from a business and finance point of view, we decided to look at, start small, think big. So look at more of a lower budget slate, which would be more realistic for first time, film. And Sacrilege, I guess, came out of, lots of, relationships and ideas and understanding the industry. And I think it was a good place to start. So, Dave said he had this idea, based around what was initially a single location, not far from Bristol, so we could utilize the cast and crew in and around the southwest. I think on the 14th of August we had an idea. He pitched the idea. I think I was away on holiday at the time, and then by I think Christmas Eve on 2018, was it, Dave? We had and then started raising money, January, early January 2019. And that was it. We started shooting May 2019, and we've just had a big release in the cinema, which is quite surreal.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear, actually, kind of the process that it goes through, because a lot of people, the film comes to the cinemas, you watch it, you leave, and you don't really think about how long it takes for, like, especially a lower budget film to make its way to the cinema. I want to talk as well about Cineworld, because they've been really great in supporting the film, and they've been really good in pushing it out, because I know it's in quite a lot of Cineworlds around the UK. Do you think it's important that cinema chains give low budget films like Sacrilege that recognition?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, you have to look at it from their point of view as well, right? In that they have to fill their screens with movies that they're going to make money. They're a business, but at the same time, we've been working very closely with the VP of Cineworld, and He's been amazing. You know, you can't get any higher than that guy, right? So the fact that we were talking to him is something of an achievement anyway. But, you know, they're very clear that they want to help. You know, as far as they're concerned, their mission is not just to keep supplying the audience with the same things that they're going to see from, you know, Disney and Marvel and Warner Brothers over and over again. There's nothing wrong with those movies. Of course not. I go see it. But at the same time, there has to be room for other production companies, other productions that can get exposure, because that's what it's about. Because once you do that, once you get some exposure, and we've seen this, you know, we only had our premiere last Thursday and we've had people literally banging down our door to be involved in what we're doing next. So, you know, it's that kind of exposure that we need as a company, that we can then actually say, okay, well, now we have that exposure, we can go on and do great things within the industry, because all these other people that didn't have a chance, we can help those guys, right? We can find a way for you to get through, you know, but there has to also be a technical level of quality that in a lot of low budget movies is not there.
Because the film itself, it does start with quite with that opening scene, you literally without spoiling anything, of a man kind of combusting up into flames.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the more go into a bit deeper detail in terms of the technical aspects of the film, how difficult it was to kind of achieve those special effects that are kind of not just in that kind of really impressive kind of opening, but through the rest of the movie as well?
Well,
yeah, I'll tell you very quickly before I'll let Mark jump in here. I've got to say, fair play, right? Because ultimately, I wrote this stuff, right? And in my head, I'm like, yeah, we'll set a dude on fire and we'll do this and we'll do that. And, you know, Mark's like, yeah, that sounds amazing. How are we going to do that? Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's just dude on fire. It looked great. And, you know, and then literally I come back and Mark's like, okay, right. So we've got stunt dude, we've got prosthetics, we've got this, we've got that, you know, and then it forms itself. But, you know, sometimes, especially when you're in the creative side of it, you know, as much as it's Mark and I's company, we have to have, you know, definitive kind of roles, because otherwise, you know, wires get crossed and, you know, who's doing what and stuff like that. And, you know, it was so nice to have a producer that could go, okay, cool, I'll go and sort that out. And then they did it, which but still baffles me. But yeah, Mark will tell you about the trials and tribulations of that.
And thanks for saying you thought it was CG, because actually it's a real guy, real stunt man, and we set him on fire for real. So you know, because Dave, you know, he wants to do everything in front of the camera as much as we can, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do stuff in camera than it is to fix it in the mix. So although, you know, the stuntman isn't cheap, it's probably cheaper than doing CG. But we decided to do a hybrid. You know, so we did. We shot the film in May and we went back in December and actually, you know, set a stunt guy on fire. So Dave Anders has been on films like Spectre, you know, and he just jumped at the chance of bringing his team down and saying, okay, you know, I love what you guys are doing. We gave him an opportunity to be that sort of guy. Initially, it was going to be a stand-in guy, and we had an actor to play the Burning Man. But he said, look, I can do this for you. And he took direction really well from Dave. And actually, he could act really, really well. And you know, he was pumped up. We had, you know, lots of safety teams. I think we had like 20 or 30 kilograms of carbon dioxide. You know, when we say low budget, we still had a crew of say 20, 30 people. You know, and we shot this film in 18 days and a couple of pickup days. But it was a real challenge to, you know, to get, you know, the Rottweiler, you know, in camera. It was a local guy, company.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah. Well, you know, it's fears. So there's, yeah, lots of different fears, but, you know, fear of fire. But I know.
Killing me.
But, you know, once again, it's in camera, and those, you know, everybody on set was, you know, briefed. Safety was paramount. We had to make sure all the insurances were in place, and do this thing properly. And I think, you know, to be led by Rockwood Animals, you know, who provide the dogs for Peaky Blinders, you know, everyone was, you know, alert. They were briefed, you know, went through without any issues. But that fear, I think, you know, you see in Sean's face is real. You know, we were all quite fearful, even though it was well controlled. The dog was attacking the boom mic and all sorts of issue, and but we listened. The dog was well behaved and well controlled on set, and I think that comes through. And the opening scene with fire, just come through really, really well.
Can I ask about some of the influences as well for this film? Obviously, a bit of Midsommar in there, a bit of Wicker Man as well. Midsommar, Dan will tell you, was my favourite film of last year. Can you tell us a little bit about the influences of the movie as well?
Yeah. I think the biggest influence was probably Dumb and Dumber. Curry. No, that's sorry. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the Wicker Man. He's amazing. It's certainly, when I was growing up, was one of the films that just fascinated me, how it kind of scared me and entertained me at the same time. And I've always been a big fan of the traditional kind of Hammer horror movies. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and I think for me it was kind of trying to blend those with a more modern kind of take on the idea. There was a fairly recent movie called The Ritual, which I loved. Yeah, I thought it was great. It was a really good idea. It was funny because obviously you see a movie come out and you're like, I've already written a script. People are going to think I've copied The Ritual. It's like, that's just the way it goes, right? There's, I think when there's a common theme that kind of runs through that, I think we're very good over in the UK. We've got that kind of folklore, kind of, really mythic creatures and paganism and Satanism and all these kind of weird, messed up stuff that seems to come from the British Isles that, certainly that American audiences love as well. So those were the kind of influences I wanted to pull into this movie.
Bad Blood Films going from strength to strength. This is kind of your first official film of that company. I just want to know, without giving any spoilers away or clues, what's next for you two? What's kind of your next project going out?
Can we say, or I don't know, Mark? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
An exclusive.
We've got, I guess, 15 films we've been developing and packaging up over the past few years. Because as I say, it's taken a while to get to this stage, but we always wanted to build the company, build the relationships, build the end-to-end, the sort of script to screen sort of model like we're plugging, and then come back and start making our own films, but also encouraging other filmmakers to make other movies, and working with other filmmakers, down the line, to utilize our contacts and our distribution, because Bad Blood Films are also distributing and have self-distributed this movie, and I think that's really important, to carve that space. We hadn't rushed into it, but we've made some proof of concept stuff with regards to Crowman and Facility 31, to allow us then to show people that we're serious and we can produce good quality content, and then work on our lower budget slate of projects. And and we've got 3 films that we're very happy to push forwards with. The scripts are complete, and we want to be sort of going into production, I guess May, June, July, depending on when we can raise finance for these movies. But I don't know if you want to elaborate more on the type of films we're working on, Dave.
Yeah, I guess you could say we're doing a very British version of Candyman. I guess that's probably about.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's one of those where I think it would be distinctively British, but at the same time have that kind of vibe, that feel. It's one of my favorite movies. Clive Barker's one of my favorite authors. It'd be great to work with him, but I think it would be, it's kind of like the modern. I know the modern version that is coming out, which I'm really keen on seeing. I think Jordan Peele is amazing, so I think it would just be good to see where that goes. But I think it's time for us to kind of do our own version of that. We also have a very wicked take on a home invasion movie. And we also have I guess it's kind of a hybrid between, I can't remember the name of the movie now. What was the one where it was in the sewer with the trains and all that?
Oh, Creep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we've got kind of like a Creep, but with prehistoric flesh-eating bugs.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a concept, definitely. I'd be up. One thing I wanted to ask as well, before I forget, in the with your future films as well. Obviously, Sacrilege is quite unique, I guess, in a way, because it's got 4 female characters at its center. Not just 4 female characters. You've got gay characters in there. You've also got a really good plot point, which I thought was quite nice, was the lead actress, I guess, whose kind of main fear is obviously she's been attacked or ever in the past by a man, and I thought that was a really good element of the movie. Is that something we're going to see going ahead with your other features, kind of strong, kind of female orientated characters?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in general, it always fascinates me more when there are complex characters. We've all seen movies where everyone's a little bit kind of 2D, a little bit flat. They seem to kind of just be fodder for the serial killer or the creature, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those movies, but I think for us, certainly, Mark and I have always spoke about how the films that we like always seem to have some really nice subtext to them, and I think it's key that we represent on screen people and communities that aren't necessarily shown on screen, because we've seen many movies where the white male protagonist is doing everything and saving the world. That's fine. Don't get me wrong, I love a good Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Predator's one of my favorite films, so long may they continue. But I think at the same time, it's looking at not doing it to necessarily tick boxes, but at the same time just saying what's the best way to tell this movie. How can we get the most out of this story, whilst also trying to make sure that we include as much as we can, that means as many people will enjoy the movie as they can.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think we kind of set the company up as a focus for thriller and horror, but we both love films. It's not just horror we love, we just love good films, good storytelling. I've just been trying to find out what films actually is I like, and I think it is just films that are relatable, films with good story, good character development. And I think horror, there's definitely a space within horror for us to flush that out a bit more. I like Dave's writing because he does care about the characters, and before he even starts writing, he's already got a backstory for all the characters. So Father Saxon's got a whole backstory. We could make a prequel and a sequel to Sacrilege, and actually it's quite an interesting relationship between the relationships within Sacrilege. So I kind of like that, because I think then we wanted to open with this horror moment and then dive into the characters and then build up on that, with these characters and make it relatable and make it modern, because then I think you care a bit more, and hopefully we've kind of done that to some degree. This project was a proof of concept for many things that Bad Blood Films wants to do, but it's also important that the story holds up, and for me, I think Dave done a decent job in doing that. The Metro gave us a 3.5 out of 5, which we're very pleased with, and and aligned us with Blumhouse and the Fantasy Island Invisible Man thing. If you want an alternative, Sacrilege is alternative within the cinema arena that would give you an alternative to those sort of bigger Hollywood sort of horrors. So I think it is important, and I think as a company, we want to be diverse. We want to be inclusive. We've worked with local universities and film schools, up and coming talent. Everybody really raised their game, and it's important to create this network, this environment, and open up dialogue so we can, continue to do this as we push forward with not only our films, but in that independent film sector. So important.
I just want to say thank you so much, both of you, David and Mark, for your time. It's been just a fantastic interview. Really interesting. I'm sure Joe will agree. Really a lot of insight into what goes into making these kind of low-budget British horror films. And long may they continue, really, because I think, they deserve the recognition, like you said before. So, yeah, just thank you very much for the interview. I hope all of the rest of your projects go well. And if you guys are ever in Cardiff, please drop by in the studio. We'd love to have you back.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. And I think what we'll do next time is as soon as we know the movie is in production, you guys are more than welcome to come on set.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, David. That's very kind.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problem at all. Mark's going to kick my ass now. Sorry about that, but yeah.
No, I think the more the merrier. Come on down. You can be an extra.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get you it. If you want, I'll even kill you. It's not a problem.
Wow. Can I be put into line, please?
Anyway,
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.